We share the Colorado River between the two cities, if you will. We're drawing water from Wyoming and Colorado. The Colorado River is it's funny to call it a river. It's basically an industrial artifact. It consists of a series of reservoirs, out of which water is transferred into other basins. So, you know, the Colorado River comes down the west side of the Rockies, and water is taken over to the east side of the Rockies to Denver, for example, out of the watershed that's feeding that river, which is supposed to flow, you know, clear to the Gulf of California. It doesn't make it really anymore. So it's a river that was oversubscribed when they, in the early part of the 20th century, when they figured out what they thought was the average flow of the Colorado River that was going to have to sustain Phoenix and Las Vegas and Los Angeles and so forth. They were very wet years, and of course, they're not average, and not only that, things are getting drier just overall in this part of the world. So it's going to be tough. I mean, at some point, well, we're starting to see conservation now taken more seriously here. I mean, I know that there are watering restrictions and so forth going into effect. I find it very peculiar, by the way, that all Los Angelinos are supposed to water on the same 2 days of the week. You know, most cities, they alternate them. If you live on an odd street address, you Tuesday and Thursday, even address Wednesday and Friday. You know. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the water pressure. But this is a problem that's happening around the world. It's happening around the world. You find these enormous transfers of water out of the basins. John Wesley Powell, when he floated down to Colorado in the 19th century, said, don't transfer water out of this basin to somewhere else. You need to leave it where it is and use it where it is. And if you don't have enough, too bad, just don't build there. It's advice that we ignored completely. And now our great cities of the American Southwest are going to pay the price. They're doing the same thing with the Nile in Egypt. They're pumping the water out of the river. It no longer really feeds into the Mediterranean the way it should, so it's going to affect. It's a long story. But Las Vegas and Los Angeles, to some degree, to me, are indicator cities for the problems that the rest of the world's going to have.
Yes, I mean, we both steal water.
Right. No, I think that the point you're raising is really an important one. And we looked at this, the culture of basically importing landscapes, right? I mean, where you have the desert, which is not taken seriously, or which is seen as that canvas onto which you can project whatever ideal city you want, you are wishing for, you're desiring, right? And then you import, then also, of course, vegetation that is not really a local one. And this understanding, coming back to, I would say, cognitive patterns, right, or ways in which you see or understand landscape, what really struck us is the kind of the dismissal or the not acknowledging the environment that you actually live in and projecting then what you already know, what you have seen as ideal landscapes from elsewhere. And the consequences that we are seeing is, yes, I mean, that there is a possibility that is now developed that Lake Mead will be running dry as a 50% possibility in 2021, right? And we are seeing now with climate change certainly really serious changes in the environment. And there is an enormous struggle also from the city of Las Vegas to support essentially the saving of water and these resources. But you also see initiatives that are very clearly linked also to strategies that Los Angeles has come up with regard to importing water from the Owens Valley. And now there are initiatives to develop pipelines into the northern part of Nevada, which might lead to similar consequences, right? So I think in terms of the understanding of an environment, the ways in which you urbanize this environment, and the patterns of lifestyle are certainly prominent issues.
Yeah, and I would just add to that on a positive note, that our water district company has engaged in a really aggressive campaign. They pay a substantial sum to you if you go dry with the landscape in your yard, if you get rid of your grass, and I predict that will be coming to your town very soon. You'll stop, and more you see rocks instead of grass in people's yards.
It's $1 a square foot they'll pay you for every square
right.
foot of lawn you take out.
It's been a very, very effective program.
But there's still, I think the importance of the question and the importance of the issue can't be emphasized enough, because it comes back to also a questioning of, this notion of growth for growth's sake. And also the questions then of density, densification. Also a question finally of the scale of lifestyle that one wants. So, there are maps of the Las Vegas Valley that identify how many pools per person in each zip code. And there are areas that, just have one swimming pool for 10 people or less, for an entire zip code. And this comes back to the issue of, what type of urbanization is possible within an extreme climate. And the notion of continually displacing or displacing oneself to another location, pretending that one isn't in the desert, is something that I think one doesn't even really need to talk long term anymore. It's just simply, in the next decade or two, I think those limits will be reached.
There needed to be a lot of mindset changes, because just like 6 years ago, no, it's been longer than that, in the late 90s, when Steve Wynn still owned the Gold Nugget downtown, he had a plan to dig up all the downtown streets and make them into canals. But that got shot down by water conservationists.